now. Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Answers from an Actuary, where we are answering some of your most frequently asked questions from 2024. I'm really excited to introduce Kaitlin Creighton, who's here with us today. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. And she's first going to talk to us about her actuarial journey, including how she found out about the profession, what you studied in college, and your first internship, and about your current role.
Hi, thanks. I'm really excited to be here talking to you today. And I'll start at the beginning for my journey. So I first found out about the actuarial profession my freshman year of high school. We had to take a personal finance class, and our teacher said that we had to report on a job or a career that involved finance. That was the only requirement. And so I had always loved math, and I knew that an actuary did math. And so I chose that one to investigate. And so that's how I started learning about the profession. And I remember being out on the Be an Actuary website, and they had some like probability puzzles. And they were like, if you enjoy doing this, you might want to be an actuary. And I said, oh, I really like doing this. So that is what got me interested. And then as part of that class, we also had to come up with, we had to pick a town to live in and create a budget. And so I picked Bloomington, Illinois, which is where State Farm is headquartered. And I said, oh, well, I know that, I could be an actuary at State Farm, and this would be what the cost of living there was like, and had it all planned out. And then this always sat in the back of my mind. So when it came time, towards the end of high school, to start applying for colleges, I knew that I definitely wanted to stick with math, and looked, I was living in Tennessee, so I looked at a lot of the Southeastern schools where there's not a ton of actuarial programs out there. So I ended up majoring in math, just pure math at Clemson University, which is in South Carolina, which is a smaller program, but a really wonderful program. We had a lot of fun together, had great advisors. And so did my major in math, did my minor in corporate finance, and then started taking actuarial exams, applied for internships. I did end up at State Farm for an internship, but actually my first internship with them was in their research park in Champaign on U of I's campus, and then did another internship with them at their corporate headquarters on their life insurance side. And so the first internship was P&C, second internship was life, got to have a little bit of experience there. After graduation, went and worked for State Farm for 4 years, really enjoyed it, but then moved to another insurance company that was also in Bloomington, Illinois. It's a small insurance company called Country Financial. And what's cool about small insurance companies is that you get to work on a lot of things because there's not a lot of people, but you still have a lot of responsibilities. And so you get exposed to a lot of different experiences in parts of the business. And then I was there for 3 years, and now I've moved to consulting and live in Chicago, working for Milliman. And so I do mergers and acquisitions work now. So anytime a company wants to sell off a block of their life insurance or annuities business, they work with us to come up with a valuation for that. And so that's a little bit about how I started getting into the interested in the field to where I am now. So it's been a really fun, rewarding career so far.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And it's so cool to hear how you've sort of touched every part of being an actuary, especially now being in consulting. So that's
Yeah.
really exciting for me to hear. And I'm excited to, well, we'll get to that in 1 second. There's another question in between those. So first of all, I know a lot of folks always ask this question in our Ask an Actuary session. So can you tell us if you've ever failed an exam?
I have, and most actuaries do. Almost all do. So if it happens, it's totally okay. It's part of the process. When I failed my first exam, it was my first FSA exam, and I actually failed it twice before passing it on my third sitting. And for me, the making that shift from the preliminary exams for your ASA to doing the FSA exams was a really hard shift for me. And I had to rethink how I was studying the material. And it stopped being so much about just grinding out practice problems, memorizing formulas, and started It took me taking a step back and saying, how do I make sure I'm looking at this from a holistic perspective, making sure I understand all of the foundations and the concepts behind what I am writing about on this exam. And then making that shift helped me eventually pass. But it is a very tough experience. It's a very humbling experience. But you keep going, and then once you get to the other side, it's all worth it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and especially sharing those study tips, thinking about zooming out, looking at everything, going back to the foundations. That is super helpful advice for folks who are studying for their exam. So thank you for sharing that. So to get back what I was saying a couple seconds ago, this question that we get a lot is, how do I choose a field? How do I know if I want PNC or life or health or pension, etc.? So what were your considerations for choosing your internships and your jobs? Because you do have that varied experience in all of these fields.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, the most practical advice is that you do what you get a job in. I mean, wherever you can find the opportunity, that you're going to be happy doing it. If you're going to be happy being an actuary, you're going to be happy doing any of the work. If you are, able to make a choice, or you're you're given that privilege of having to make a choice, I would say that for me, I chose between PNC and life, and I really like that life insurance, you have that longevity to the problem. When we price products for life insurance today, actuaries 100 years from now are going to be dealing with either our mistakes or our wins, or you have that longevity to it. And on the other side, I have spent a lot of my career working on life insurance policies that were issued in the 30s and 40s, and getting to see how those played out over time, getting to see how the product design has changed over time. So it can be really interesting to see kind of a whole history and getting to work with that every day. And on the PNC side, you reprice every year. It's a lot more, I would say, short-term focus. Your investments are short-term. It's a lot more about the statistics, and in life insurance, we typically focus more on the finances of it. There's more interest rate risk, so you have to think about that more. And I enjoyed those challenges of it. So, whenever you get to do an internship or you're working on a project, I would just say, think about what pieces of the job do you really enjoy, and which job is going to let you do more of that work more. And that goes for anything. If you really enjoy coding, or you really enjoy looking at investments, just think about what roles could you align yourself towards that is going to give you more of that.
Thank you so much for that thoughtful answer. And I love what you talked about, especially with the history part. So I often say to our students and candidates that actuarial science is such an interdisciplinary field. And so I had never considered even thinking about the history of it. So that's just another field. So truly anyone, as long as you have the perseverance and the math skills to be able to be an actuary, anyone can be an actuary. And that's really cool to hear. So thank you for that. Our next question is about, so we usually get asked, how many exams should I take in college? So anything that you can speak to about that, whether that's, study time once you have a job, the pros and cons of studying in college versus when you have a job, anything along those lines would be great.
Yeah, I would say there's two main thoughts that I'll bring to this, and they are a little bit conflicting. The first is that the faster you can get the exams out of the way, the better, because then you can go on and live a whole second life post-study time. And it's great. Being on the other side is wonderful. But the other thing I'll say is that exams, especially while you're in college, are not the end all be all. We want to make sure that we're hiring well-rounded individuals. We want to see that you have intellectual curiosity. We want to see that you have potential leadership. It's not just about passing exams. And the other thing to think about is that the exams are not necessarily cheap. You are paying for study materials, you're paying exam fees. And once you're working for an employer, they're typically going to pay for all of that for you and give you study time to do it. And so you're getting more of a support system if you're taking exams while you're working versus when you're in college. I'll say that I graduated with 3 exams. Of course, I went to a school where I was a math major, not an actual science major. And so we didn't have classes for every exam under the sun, like some programs do. And so even that 3rd exam was more self-study on my part at that point. And so, but I still felt that I had enough of background going in my job where I could learn the rest of the concepts, actually working on material. And the other side to it too is that like taking, well, let's see, MLC when I took it, I think it's LTM now or ALTM, that long-term math. Working in life insurance, you use a lot of those formulas every day and you use a lot of those concepts every day. And so getting to work in the spreadsheets and then taking an exam on it was also easier for me than maybe thinking about learning it in a classroom and then taking an exam. So there's different pros and cons, and I would say don't miss out on college because you are studying all the time to try to get 6 or 8 exams before you graduate. Definitely try to find a balance.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's super great advice that you left us with at the end. I also really appreciate you talking about how you had a pure math um, degree program that you were in, and you sort of did that self-study on your own for your 3rd exam. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool to hear because it is always awesome to hear how our candidates are such self-starters and are so intellectually curious, like you had mentioned before, that they're seeking out extra materials to take exams that aren't even covered in their college courses. So thank you for sharing that as well. I think a lot of folks watching this will resonate. That will resonate with them. Okay, I have 2 more questions here for you. Can you talk about your favorite part about being an actuary?
Yes, I love to talk about that. I really love being an actuary because every day you get to solve problems, and it's coming in and getting to take all these really cool puzzles and try to figure out what's going on and make sense of it and then create a story around it. And then you have to go and communicate that story with everybody else. And so you get to, it's not, I think there's a misconception that being an actuary is all about being in the weeds, being in the data, living in our spreadsheets, which a lot of the job is that. But there's also the piece of it where it is up to us to communicate it with other areas of the business, other people that have to make strategic decisions. And they're relying on our data analysis to create, action items that they can take out. And so I really enjoy both those sides. I feel like it's a really nice mesh between getting to be in the corporate business world and also getting to really play with the numbers. And I also think that the problems you solve, there's such a variety to them. I mentioned earlier about getting to work on really old products, but then while you're having to look at your in-force policies and manage your old products, you're also getting to be really innovative with your new products too. And so you get to be on both sides of it. And you could also, trying to solve the same problem, but you could be in different interest rate environments. Even one year to the next, you're trying to solve the same problem, but it becomes a completely different solution because the interest rate environment has totally changed. And so you get to just come to this same thing with, fresh eyes and fresh ideas a lot of times. And so I think it's a really rewarding career, and you do get to be at the heart of a lot of decisions because, again, a lot of areas of business are relying on actuaries to bring that analytical skill and make sense of what's going on.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really love when you said, a lot of times, or not necessarily a lot of times, but people think of actuaries as being, in the weeds, in the Excel, just in their own little room, in a closet with the door shut. But it's truly a very social and a very interpersonal profession, especially with you being in consulting. I think that's a lot more people facing than maybe your insurance jobs were. But because it is such a social and interpersonal profession, can you talk to us about building a network and then maintaining that network?
Yes, I would say that I your network can serve you in so many ways. And you have to think, I started my network with just my college friends. Other people that want to be an actuary that were at Clemson with me, we were all, you start studying together, you start trading study material, you start trading tips for exams. I mean, it all starts there. And even today, those friends, there's still some of my professional contacts, because even I have a friend today from college that I was texting, and I was like, and we were just talking about, different product designs. And so, those contacts can carry through your whole career. And so start there. Don't lose contact with those friends. But then also, when you go to your first job or your internship, make friends there. Make sure you stay in contact with people that you admire or look up to. I still have people from my first jobs, and they've gone to different companies, I've gone to different companies, but we still make sure that we stay in touch with each other because we feel like we always have something to learn from each other. And it's neat to hear, these people that you have a relationship with at this point. Now they've gone off and solved other problems, and they're facing different challenges, and you're doing the same, and you get to compare that. And so just start small, start with a few people and just grow it from there, and just make sure to stay in contact. I know that's the hardest thing for me to do, is making sure to just continue to reach out. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that, even if you haven't talked to someone in a few months, or maybe it's been a year, they're still going to be excited to hear from you. And so get over that fear, send the message, send the email, and just reach back out and maintain those relationships.
Thank you so much, Kaitlin. That answer was phenomenal. Again, the actuarial profession is not just solitude sitting in a little room with your Excel and your other programming languages. It really is a social profession. And yeah, those networks that you maintain starting in college, they can help in so many ways. And it's also exciting. I know that I have some members tell me that they like coming to our annual meetings because they get to see people that they haven't seen in so long. And that's the only time that they're getting to meet up and really have social time on top of, you know, talking business and talking shop. Um, those are all my questions for today. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to share or tell our audience?
Yeah, I just want to say that I am personally really excited about the future of the actuarial profession. I think it's really cool to see how much programs at colleges are growing, how much the industry, it seems like, is getting connected with different college programs and investing in students. I think there is a good future in the actuarial profession. I think there's a lot of things that are preached all the time, good job security, it's a rewarding job. There's a lot of different industries that I think are going to need us soon. And so just encourage everyone to continue pursuing it. And I'm really excited to see, who comes down the pipeline.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you.